Probation should be completely abolished, in my opinion. Probation
And
is
replaced? That's kind of a
no,
wild statement.
no,
Just taken out.
no, just take, not really. I mean, you just punish people up front. You do the crime, you do your time up front. But we have a good facility. Let's use it to its maximum. Let's use all the real estate in it, meaning there are plenty of offenders who, post-conviction, are dangerous. They've committed some crime they have to be punished for. Let's give them bigger sentences up front, not rely on probation, and use that jail to the maximum extent we can, but not rely on it for pretrial offenders unless they're dangerous to the community. So people who have not been convicted of a crime are presumed innocent. They shouldn't be occupying such a large percentage of that jail. Okay, probation violators who are actually in jail not for any criminal offense, but because of a probation violation, which isn't criminal at all. It might be they gave a bad test or they didn't check in. Checking in with probation is not a penal code violation. So while we give them a discount up front on their crime, whatever, put them on probation, we don't put them in jail then. But we're going to put them in. We're going to nitpick them the next 3 years over little things and put them in jail. Okay.
Yeah, but don't you think you have to set up standards so that people
Oh, sure.
follow the line that they're supposed to be walking on?
The standard is, well, the standard for, I'm not trying to regulate people. I'm trying to punish them if I'm putting them in jail. I'm trying to punish them. I'm a
Well, yeah,
retributive
the criminal justice system is definitely broken. I'm not going to argue with you on that. But as far as the steps that you have to follow when you get out of jail, like checking in with your probation officer, that seems kind of
I think it's
important.
a joke. I think honestly, probation is broken. It's
the whole
probation should be completely abolished, in my opinion. Probation
and
is,
replaced. That's kind of a wild statement.
No,
just
not
taken
not,
out.
No, just take, not really. I mean, you just punish people up front. You do the crime, you do your time up front. You don't get probation. The theory of criminal justice in probation is a second chance theory. Okay, the retributive theory of criminal justice is that things that you get, it has to be retrospective. You get punished for something you did do already, not in the future or something like that. That it's proportional. The punishment fits the crime, proportional to what you did, the harm you actually created, not the risk of harm, but the harm. Okay, and it has to be fair. It has to be equitable between people, that you get the same punishment that I get for the same crime, proportional punishment, right? That's the theory of retributive justice classically. We have to go back to that. Probation flies in the face of that. It says, okay, well, you committed this crime, and we're looking back retrospectively, but you deserve a second chance, so we're not going to punish you fully right now for what you should get. We're going to give you a second chance, but if you don't do these littler hoops here, we're going to keep nitpicking and putting you in jail. We're going to regulate your behavior for 3 years. Why? Why? Just punish the person for what they did. And when they've paid their debt to society, they're free of the system. It's just a simple model, right? Probation has become a bureaucracy and an industry in itself, and it's not effective at preventing recidivism at all.
Okay, so I agree with you that the system is broken. Again, I don't know about probation because I haven't really delved into that aspect yet. But all that sounds great in theory, I suppose. But what power do you actually have as DA to do anything with that? Obviously, the jail.
You have a ton because so 90% of the cases are plea bargained. Okay, 90% of them should be plea bargained because 90% of the time the facts aren't really in dispute to the point where it needs to go to a jury trial. So those 90%, you have to make a stipulation with the other side regarding what the punishment should be. And as DA, I would eliminate probation from that calculus. I would just say my offer is X time based on the fact that we can have so many of you in our jail, which has so many spaces for it, and you are a priority category of criminal, and so we're going to make space for you in this, and you're going to do all your time up front. You're going to serve the time for your crime, and there's not going to be probation involved. So in the end, they're going to have to look at doing all of that time up front, and we won't need probation. Because in probation, by definition, probation is a discount on sentencing, right? You're telling someone, you really deserve the triad 1623, but we're going to give you a second chance. Why? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Punish people for what they did, and then let them go back to their lives.
So what about, because my understanding of probation as well is that if you commit a lower level crime, a misdemeanor, you can go straight to probation and you don't have to do jail time.
That's unregulated probation. They're on probation sometimes with search and seizure. Any condition of probation has to have a nexus to the crime. So if I have a client that commits a low-level drug offense misdemeanor and they're put on probation, summary probation, for example, and the standard terms of probation come back with an alcohol restriction, I can have that stricken because there's no nexus to the crime. Okay, so But most of them for drug crimes, gun crimes, ammo, stuff like that, they have search and seizure provisions for that type of thing. So, which is good, but you can still have search and seizure. I think that should be attached to a policy of confiscation where we just take people's stuff off the streets, take the contraband off the streets, and make them sign a voluntary search and seizure for 6 months or whatever length, and let them go on with their lives, rather than putting people in jail or prison for a
Voluntary
year.
search and seizure, meaning for 6 months you could just go search their house
6 months.
at any point in time.
Yeah, that's how it operates
without
now.
warning.
That's how it operates now, and
But that's under probation now.
that's under probation now. If you're put on probation, there's a search and seizure term. You don't
So you would just keep that included in whatever you draft up, but eliminate probation.
eliminate the probation bureaucracy because it doesn't make any sense. I would make the people do their time up front. So for low level drug, and we'd have to decide. Now, I'm proposing that we decide what the sentences are based on the availability in the jail. Like I said, we're not going to have an empty jail. We're going to have a full jail of these people that we decide to put in cages, humans in cages, right? So if we decide after some analysis that is a 90-day sentence for a low-level drug offender or a 180-day sentence for a low-level drug offender, okay, they're going to, whatever crime, if it's worth going through the DA's office, they're going to do some time. They're going to know that. There's not going to be any probation second chance. If we successfully achieve a conviction and a prosecution, they will do jail time, period. And just not give second chances. Their second chance comes when they're done with their time. When they're done with their time, they're supposed to be, they've paid their debt to society. They're, go on with their normal lives at that point, not have to be regulated. The other stupid thing about probation is that you're telling people, for example, okay, you're a bad guy. We're going to give you a second chance, even though you're a bad guy, but we're going to put you on probation, but you can't leave this county now for 3 years.